Let me go ahead and start. Okay, everyone, thank you for your patience in joining this. We are excited to meet with you today to talk about AI and the legal front door. So, a couple housekeeping items before we start. Use the chat. Like here for you, we can make this interactive. Happy to make sure that we're showing you all is actually something that would resonate and be valuable. And then secondly, we're going to be going through some actually live use cases. So again, feel free to interact. Let us know what is important to you when you think of an AI legal front door. So to start, I just want to give briefly high level, a little bit about Checkbox for those of you that might not have a full understanding of who we are, what we do, kind of this new concept of legal intake, legal triage, all using AI. So I guess one of the things we've recognized like fundamentally is that legal as a team is very much a demand driven organization. And what does that mean, right? Well, that means that all of legal's work is dependent on really other people. Sales might need a contract reviewed. HR might need some help with an employment issue. Maybe IT has some infosec questions they need related to data privacy, right? And all of these are typically on demand, ad hoc. I need your help. As a result of that, like nature of work that legal does, right? This is kind of what we end up seeing. Requests really come from anywhere. Slack, email, you know, Teams, showing up directly, filling out a Microsoft form or a Google form, right? All of these different avenues. And it kind of creates chaos for legal professionals, like quite frankly, because there are so many different places to go and to do things. It just becomes chaotic. And then what ends up happening is you're spending so much time doing the administrative work to make sure all of these different crosses are dotted and all of this mess is in order that it takes away from the time that you spent going to law school and learning how to do this type of legal work. So that's where Checkbox comes into play. We really are that legal front door and operating system. So we can take that mess of requests and we can completely streamline it and automate it so that the work that legal is doing is reserved to actual legal work. And that's what we're going to focus on today. How that can be made possible, especially with AI. So, with that, let's just jump in and we can take a look at things. One of the first things I want to highlight is Teams. For a lot of enterprises, they actually live in Microsoft Teams. So if you think about, what are the typical types of things that your legal team works on? Right? What are the common questions you might get, the common work you might receive? And that's where that idea of a legal front door comes in. As a business requester, what's nice about this is I can be anywhere. So we'll show you Teams right now. I could be in email. I could be in Salesforce. I could be in SharePoint. I could be in Slack. Like it doesn't matter. Checkbox meets the business where they work. So here's a scenario we hear often. Maybe I'm a new hire at the company, and part of my job is I need to buy some software, let's say, to help automate the department I work for. Well, I'm new here. I don't know, but like who can sign this contract? Like what's the process to go through that? Well, I might come into here and click this button, which is Ask Legal. And from here, I could just simply, ask the question. Like, who is it in the organization that can sign my contract for $50,000, let's say, to procure new software? And then what Checkbox will do is, as that legal front door, like we'll just provide you the answer. So you can see here, immediately I got my answer for a $50,000 contract. The authorized signer is Jamie Brooks, who's our senior manager. They have signing authority up to $50,000. Great. Is that resolved it, or do you want to escalate? Sweet. Like I got my answer immediately, but I didn't have to go through the process of finding where that policy document is and reading through it and figuring out the context. It is immediately brought to me through AI. And what's nice for the legal team is this is something traditionally you would have to answer, right? Someone would message you directly and say, hey, do you know like who can sign this contract? And then you have to kind of go out of your way to provide that answer. It might break up the flow that you're in with the work that you're doing and then come back to it. Small thing, right? But that might take a minute in this example. And maybe the question would be 5 minutes later on. All of those minutes add up to hours per week, per month. In fact, I talked to a customer earlier this week, and she said, I think this is more of the anomaly, that they get probably 200 questions per day similar to this. That's really low value. It's already documented somewhere. Like instead of me reading it, I'm trying to get my legal team to read it and just tell me the answer. 200 a day, hours. As that legal front door, all of this can be completely automated. So we're able to deflect that work from hitting the legal team. Again, now your time is reserved for things that actually need legal attention. It doesn't have to be something simple. It could be something more complicated. Like, what's our policy on accepting gifts? And now, based upon the source material you've provided, we're going to give them that answer immediately, right out of the gate. So it's nice. Now we can see here the general rule, prohibited gifts, all of these different things. And you probably noticed too, there's this little button right here. We can even show you the source information for where we pulled that from. It's great. So right out of the gate, having an AI legal front door will help save time from a lot of that kind of low level, even low risk administrative type work. Question and answer, finding information that's already documented and presenting to the user. Fantastic. That's really like the simplest and most straightforward use case with a legal front door. What's awesome about this is we can take this so much further depending on what your legal team or your legal function might need. So, for example, let's say instead, I'm in an organization where we like to email everything, like we are email heavy. Well, I'm going to go ahead and let's say I send an email to my legal team. I'll send it to whatever your legal intake is, and I'll just say like maybe something like marketing review, right? In this example. And I might say something like, I don't know, maybe I need help reviewing some marketing materials. I'll send it off. Like, that's it. No context, right? How many times did you get this? Someone says, hey, can you help me with this? And they provide nothing and they give you no context for what it's for. And then what happens? Well, what you have to then do is you have to reply and say, yeah, you forgot to attach the brief or whatever, or what's the marketing material, or when is it going, like any context, please, would be nice because they sent nothing. Well, what's nice about that legal front door is that with Checkbox, like, we know that, okay, if you're trying to review marketing materials, you probably need to know, like, what's the type of material? What are the regions? When do you go live? Is it a social media post? Is it print? What have you? We will automatically respond to the business and ask for them to supply the necessary information. Great. I'll go ahead and reply then. And I'll just say, please see attached. And in this example, I'm just going to go ahead and attach a marketing brief that we have. And that's it, nothing else. I'll just attach the document, send it in. Now, in the document, I have a sample picture of what we're going to submit. I have a description. I have all this context related to it. Well, with that legal front door, what we can do is we can actually look at the content of the attachments, and we can extract the campaign name automatically, the context, the date it goes live if it's in there, the type of marketing material. All of that completely automatic. So now when I reply back and I provide that information, again, now Checkbox is going to say, okay, this is what Josh sent me. Is this everything legal needs? And it will then automatically reply back following up for any missing details. So we can see we got the response. The last thing it wants to know is the specific date and the type of material it is. Great. I'll go ahead and reply and I'll say it is a print and it goes live on June 29th, 2026, right? They always send it to you like really close to when it's due. Awesome. Again, legal has had to do nothing. Like you're not having to do that administrative back and forth and data collection. It's all done automatically. And AI is very helpful because it's conversational. It's not like, oh, I need to go fill out a form and create a ticket to get to legal. We are able to capture a lot of the context just naturally in the conversation. We call it intelligent triage. It's one of the big values for AI in a legal department because we're making sure that what comes to legal is complete, that you're not spending your time going back and forth and back and forth. If we then jump into Checkbox, what happens is once that request gets in, we're going to actually record it here in our matter management. So this is really where all requests will live that require legal to work on. And you'll notice right at the top, marketing materials review, right? Here's what I literally just submitted. Let's open it up and take a look at it, see what it looks like. When we open it up, you'll notice right out of the gate, we can see metadata. We can see that the campaign name was extracted, a summary of it, that it was print. And then if we go to the Conversations tab, we can see right here is what was actually submitted. So this is what I submitted. Here's the copy of my print and some context around the campaign, objectives, right? Anything that you might need, I can provide here in this brief that we submitted. Well, one of the cool things with AI is, yeah, it can help make sure that requests coming in are complete, have all the information. But what if we could also help your legal team do a first pass review? One of the nice things about Checkbox is with that legal front door, we can actually use different playbooks out of the box, or you can bring your own to do first pass reviews on this content. So you'll see that request that came in, we summarized it automatically. We provided an executive summary, and then we automatically flag compliance risks, legal risks, any marketing concerns, and provide suggested improvements. Now, this is just visible to legal, but now you don't have to open it up, read through it, think about these things. Like we'll do that first pass review automatically against your playbook, against what you typically approve or reject, or how you typically review marketing materials in this example. For example, we can see, oh, look, trademark infringement. It uses imagery and character likeness closely resembling well-known space opera franchise characters, raising significant risk of third-party trademark copyright infringement. Great. Good to know, right? Well, now that we did that first pass review, You, your legal team can simply come down and maybe from here we want to send an email to that person's manager. And we might say something like, hey, did you know that, Josh submitted Star Wars marketing materials for review? We can't do that. Or, whatever you want. I send that message directly from the platform even. And then maybe from here, I can at mention one of my coworkers, one of my peers, my associates. And I might say, oh, Sharik, didn't you work on something similar with another brand? Can you take a look at this? And I'll add that note. What now happens is instead of us being siloed in our email in this example, we're able to bring all of that conversation, all of the context, the reasoning, the decisions right here in this matter or this request. And we can see how AI has automatically done that first pass review. What's nice about this is because all of this is now centralized, it opens up some different possibilities. Now, in this example, it's a pretty straightforward, like marketing materials review, right? But I imagine that some of the requests that you work on, they can be pretty comprehensive. They might be open for a long time. Top right corner, we do give you the summarize button. So you could come in as a legal ops or even as a GC, and now you get a snapshot of exactly what's happened with this particular material. All the recent activity, a summary, what have you. From here, even you can see things like here's any of the files associated to it. Or maybe you would want to create tasks. Maybe as a first pass task, we need to assign a person to it, set a due date, right? So you can see all of the specific work that needs to be done. And even you can see date specific events at when those events need to occur. So now we centralize all of it into here, into one place to go. And if we jump back, one of the nice things you'll notice, that status field automatically updated to with the business, right? Because I just emailed the manager and I said, hey, manager, like, were you aware of this? And using AI, you can see we can actually update the status fields automatically. Again, we're trying to eliminate a lot of that administrative work legal teams traditionally get kind of stuck doing. So in this example, we saw how using AI, we were able to go back and forth conversationally with the business, with the requester, to capture all the information. We were able to use AI to extract information from the document attached to fill out the metadata. Once that matter or request was created, we were able to use AI to do a first pass review against a pre-approved marketing playbook in this example. And as we were actioning it and working on it, we automatically changed the status and update it for you. Now legal can spend time doing legal work. They don't need to spend time doing all of the administrative work behind the legal work. Great. That's one example. Now, what's nice about the idea of a legal front door is it's really where everything starts. I'll give you a good analogy. Let's say, well, hopefully not, but let's say you end up in the emergency room, right? Well, when you get to the emergency room, there's typically other people there that also have an emergency. Well, there's only so many beds in an ER that can take people in. So how do we know what gets escalated first? Who gets first priority? And that's where we have nurses doing triage, right? They're saying that, okay, You have a splinter, that's probably a lower priority than someone with like, a broken arm and the bone sticking out. Well, what if we could apply those same principles, but to legal requests, where Checkbox can recognize what the priority of something is or where it should go depending on the context of the request. We'll give you another example. Let's say I jump back into my Teams and I start up a new conversation. And in here, maybe in this example, I'm a good steward. I just finished all of our InfoSec training, right? I'm sure you all get them. I swear, like every week, it's like, do another training on security. Don't click those links in your emails, right? Well, let's say I did a training and I noticed that we have a policy that says, hey, if you leave your desk unlocked, like that's a no-no. You have to lock your computer when you leave your desk. Well, what if I wanted to maybe report that? So I can come in here and I can say, hey, I need to report an employee for violating our security policy. They keep leaving their desk unlocked, right? I'm not snitching. I'm just keeping us accountable, right? Checkbox is going to do the same thing, right? Okay, we'll help you out. I need to know, like, when did this happen and who was it? Well, let's say it happened, we'll say yesterday, June 24th, and it was Sean, again, my manager. Let's just say in this example. Great. Provide that information. Once that information is provided, Checkbox will then go ahead and kick off whatever the process might be. Now, I don't know about you all, but sometimes people send stuff to legal that might not need to go to legal. And this might be one of those examples where this request has come in and we recognize, you know what? Not sure if this is something legal should be doing. So let's do this. You know what? Let's send this to HR and let's ask them to review it before we take it on at work, right? So we're doing the triage, right? We're confirming with another nurse. Let's say, hey, is this something like we actually help with in our ER? Is this something that should even be with us? If I navigate over to my email, right at the top, we can see, oh, hey, HR, a legal request was submitted that requires your input. Please click the link below to provide information. Okay, great. So I'm someone in HR, click the link. What happens? Well, it actually takes me into my Checkbox portal where as the HR person, I'm wearing my HR hat. I can see here's details, right? Reporter observed the third time Sean Ramsey left his computer unlocked while away from his desk, creating security policy risk. I could plug in the employee ID number. I might upload a file related to this, maybe like a memo on our findings, or we could say like, oh yeah, we looked it up. He completed his trainings, blah, 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 whatever. We can upload as a memo. We'll say, yeah, this is probably a low priority, or maybe not. Maybe it's medium priority. And maybe for this example, we'll just say, yeah, this definitely needs legal. So we'll say, yes, it requires legal. And we could say, yeah, we got to start a formal workplace investigation. Next. Great. So now, again, your attorneys haven't had to do anything. Checkbox automatically recognized that, oh, employment issue. The context of it, well, that might not be a legal thing. Let's send it to HR. And then if HR was like, oh yeah, this is with us, great. Deflected it all together. Didn't have to take any illegals time. But just to show you some of the art of the possible, we'll say, yeah, this is something that should be with legal. Great. Well, now if we navigate to Checkbox and we take a look at that matter, right here at the top, it came in, employment issue, Sean Ramsey with legal. Again, updates it all automatically. Now, one thing you might notice here, and this is a small thing, but again, it's valuable, is this request came in unassigned versus my marketing review materials came in assigned. Well, why is that? Well, depending on how your legal department is structured, we can configure this different ways. Some legal teams I talk to, they say, oh, you know what? This type of request, like James, he's our specialist with marketing review. Everything goes to James. Others say, hey, you know what? Stuff comes in, we will assign it as necessary. Like we will check bandwidth, we'll assign as necessary. What we can also do is we can use AI and we can say, oh, you know what? We see James has so many requests. Let's instead assign it to somebody else on the team, perhaps. Or we could do round robin. So there's a lot of options on how this work is divvied up. Let's say I'll go ahead and just assign this to someone on the team. Great, done. They'll be notified. They can come in here. And again, they can come in, see the context. Here's HR provided the employee ID, put it here. They provided the impact. All of that is recorded automatically. If I go to that conversations tab, I can see here's that record where we emailed HR and said, hey, give us your input. They said, yes, it should be with legal. Here's the next steps. So we have the context already captured. But again, what's nice about it is we can run first pass reviews automatically. So if we scroll up, we can see that we provided with AI an executive summary of what's happening. We flagged these are our key legal issues. Failure to secure computer access may lead to unauthorized disclosure of confidential information, violating data protection laws and internal policies. Non-adherence to established security protocols can increase company liability under cybersecurity laws, contractual obligations. So we flag all of those things right out of the gate for you. Totally different playbook than the marketing materials review we just did. But for your attorneys, it's right here out of the gate. They could even take this and directly go from here and say, okay, issue a formal written warning. Maybe we'll go ahead and we'll send an email out to that manager and issue that warning right from the platform. Or again, maybe we can mention one of our peers and associates to say, oh, can you take a look at this? I need your help, right? But the idea is that we have now streamlined and automated a majority of that intake process so your attorneys can focus time doing what's important, the legal work. Now, some of you may be thinking like, this is awesome, right? This is great. This would help us a ton. But this employment issue, like this is sensitive. This should not be in a place that my greater legal team can view. That's no problem. Checkbox, very configurable. What we often do is we can actually create multiple, we call them matter boards or request boards. Let's say I go look at those employment matters. You'll notice, oh, look, you don't have permission to view this. With that AI legal front door, we can set it up so that if we recognize things like this is an employment issue, or there's PII, or maybe it's related to mergers and acquisitions, we can automatically route that to confidential areas so that only those on your legal team that have privilege to see that will be able to see and access that material. So it's kind of a nice thing. We'll jump back in. So in that example, we showed how, again, using AI as a legal front door, we were able to take that request, capture the context, route it, triage it through the correct channels, and then once we had it escalated to legal, do your first pass review, it's complete. You can then go ahead and action it, work on it from there. Let me pause here. What we want to do next is we kind of want to show a little bit behind the scenes on how this is possible. So you can kind of see, well, one, it's actually really simple to set up. A lot of organizations that use Checkbox, their legal team actually administers it. You don't have to rely on your IT team to do it. This is built for legal, in-house legal teams. So as we transition there, definitely feel free in the chat, put your questions, use cases. You might say, hey, what about like this particular use case or problem we have? Put it in there. We'll see what we can find. All of this that we've seen is, again, out of the box with Checkbox. we can look at it behind the scenes here. So behind the scenes, we have our AI agent. And there's a few aspects to it that we want to call out. One is, yes, there is a full audit trail for everything that happens. So I can see right here is the conversation we just showed you. We can see the back and forth. We can see the context. Great. Now, you might not like the way it responded. Maybe there's something unique to your company where we need to respond a certain way. Well, great. You're able to add guidance. So you might respond and you might say something like, always provide a link to the security policy when referring to it, what have you. Well, great. Now we fine tune that. The next time someone comes in and says, oh, I got to report this security issue, Checkbox will provide a link that we're referring to automatically. What's nice about this is as you use this legal front door, it's almost like fine wine. It ages and it gets better over time because you're able to make little tweaks and adjustments and fine tune it all yourself right within here. And what's great about it too is, maybe right out of the gate, it doesn't know everything, right? Maybe you've covered 90% of the questions people might ask. Well, this AI agent, it's not connected to the web. It's a closed environment. It will only provide answers based on the specific source material you've uploaded or linked to it. If it doesn't know the answer, by default, it's going to escalate it to legal to work on. It'll make a request, a general request, and it's going to flag it right here as a fallback response. Well, what you can do is you can filter and say, let's see everything that's fallback response. Let's export all of that. Great. Well, now what do we do? Well, now we can maybe use AI to categorize that or to identify trends in the questions that the AI agent doesn't know the answer to. And then what do? Well, you can provide new source material to answer those questions. So again, the more that this is used, the better it gets. The more self-service we're able to provide, the more deflection we're able to do, the more we're able to capture what legal needs to action those requests. It's great. What else you're able to configure is, okay, so what, right? So someone comes, they ask a question, we provide an answer, they say, I want to do something, like I need help. That's where you have the ability to create actions. What are actions? Simply put, this is what the AI agent can do as a byproduct of the conversation, of the intake. There's really two things. One, we can create a matter, or we can just log a request with the context automatically. Great, done. What we can also do is we can kick off a workflow or a process. So for example, we saw how I submitted a marketing review. Well, that kicked off a workflow, which then used your playbook, compared it, provided that in the matter summary. Or with the employment issue, we notify HR and have them do a first pass review before we actually escalate it to legal. You're able to create these different kinds of workflows and matters and connect it to that AI. And that's where a lot of the power comes in the legal front door and where a lot of that administrative burden is saved. From here on the left, you can see any of that guidance as well that was provided in here. And then adjust it accordingly. What's nice about this too is we've shown how this AI agent can live in Teams. It lives in Slack. It can live in email. Honestly, this can live wherever your business works. For example, maybe we want to be in SharePoint. Maybe you have an intranet site for legal jumping off. No problem. You can embed that chat experience right here within SharePoint. I could ask any question that I need to, done. You could put it in, let's say, like Salesforce, for example. I could take this, in Salesforce, my sales team can say, I need to submit a legal request. I need to ask a legal question. And right here, we have that same embedded experience. We meet the business where they work. That power of that AI legal front door can live wherever the business works. One of the other things we've seen too with the AI legal front door is it's not necessarily just for the business submitting requests to legal. What's nice about this is with Checkbox, you can actually have multiple AI agents tailored, maybe specific to certain use cases, contract review, marketing reviews, service of process, right? A lot of different use cases. Some customers will even set this up specific for their legal function. So maybe I'm an attorney at your company and I'm new and I need some help. Well, I could go to my internal legal, let's say, and I might say something like, oh, you know what? Like, who are approved outside counsel vendors for a particular matter? Well, you can train a separate agent on all of your internal processes and workflows. And now we can see, oh, look, for our litigation work, Osprey, Kingman, and Stratton, they're the firm that we can use. And what's great about this is all of those different AI agents we saw, you can set permissions. So you can say, oh, only these certain business users can interact with it. Maybe that internal legal one, just the legal team or anyone in the legal department can. So you have that ability to limit the scope of who can interact with it and what kind of information it can provide. Okay, let me check the chat real quick. Okay, so a question came in the chat, and the question is, how does this chatbot manage questions coming in specifically for legal advice? What triggers escalation to a human? Business stakeholders will ask in this forum. And that's a great question. I have actually seen different types of organizations have different, almost like risk profiles when it comes to legal advice. The way that these AI agents work is in the source material, we are pulling out information to provide to stakeholders. Now, does that mean it's necessarily legal advice? Well, I guess it depends on how you train it. In my setup, it's mainly just pulling information from policies or procedure documents that are already listed. I have worked with some organizations that will put source material in that essentially is legal advice that says, like, if someone submits marketing materials to review, if these certain parameters are in there, like, provide this standard advice. Versus if not, set it up to kick off that action to then log it as a request for legal to then work on an action. So it can be configured to provide advice that's at least already pre-approved based on certain parameters. The more common approach I see is when people ask for business advice, that's where you can set up that fallback response, where we would actually provide specific source material that says, hey, if someone is coming to you and saying, I need specific legal advice, escalate it to the fallback response, which will then create a matter. So it's really in that source material, we would provide that guidance so the bot knows how to manage those requests coming in. Now, like I said, some organizations are fine with providing certain pre-approved specific advice depending on the context of the ask. That is more rare than common in my experience. Most organizations want anything that's legal advice specific to automatically trigger and create a request. That request would then end up right within here for you to then review automatically. Now, to highlight kind of what that experience looks like, let's go ahead and let's create a brand new agent. We're going to call this one AI Legal Front Door Webinar. And this will kind of show you the power and really the simplicity in setting this up. It's easier than you might think. So great. Have a brand new agent. There's no source material in here. Well, let's go ahead and let's add in some source material. So in this example, we're going to say, if someone asks for specific legal advice, let them know you're just an AI chatbot and that you can escalate it to legal. And then maybe we'll say if, we'll put something else for compliance questions, tell them to email, compliance@company.com, right? And if we say like, for contract questions, if someone asks if we can accept Delaware as the state of incorporation for a non-disclosure agreement, tell them yes, right? So essentially what we do is we will create all of this source material for you if you don't already have it. You may already have a lot of this pre-documented, which is great. We can take it, format it, ingest it in. But if you don't, what's also nice about this is we can actually crawl this for you. So we can crawl your mailbox if you want, Slack, and we can gather a lot of this information and format it correctly. So we'll go and just save this and we'll just call this source. And I'll just save this to my desktop and then we'll upload it in and we'll just test it right now, right out of the gate. We'll then add that source material in. Now you'll notice we can upload physical documents. You can also sync pros and cons to each, however you want to do that, wherever that source material is. I'm just going to upload it real quick. So we've uploaded the source, we've added it in. Let's go ahead and publish it. Great. So super simple, all we can do. Well, let's go ahead and test and see what we get. So I'll open up a chat interface. I'll just open up in a new tab. And I will say, I have a compliance, maybe related question. Do you know if we are SOC 2 compliant? Well, based on our source material, if I remember what I put in there, it doesn't have the answer for it. I'll say like, who knows the answer? I think I said compliance. Maybe I said procurement. Let's check what I said. As we wait, let me go ahead and ask another question related to contracts. You can see right there. Yes, if they're asking whether we can accept Delaware as a state of incorporation for an NDA, you can confirm that we can. So based on that source material we had just provided, we immediately provide that particular answer for that question. So that could be considered, right, legal advice, but it's pre-approved. and it's specific to your risk parameters. We could also set it up and say, hey, I don't know the answer to that, right? I'll go ahead and escalate that to legal as a general matter, for example. But you can see in just a matter of a few minutes, we were able to create this really lightweight legal front door to provide that kind of answer that we need. See, not able to say that it can give legal advice. So it's very much controlled environment to be able to create these things. And again, this experience, this conversational back and forth, it exists native in Teams, Slack, email, SharePoint. So wherever your business works, we can put this and embed it. But now what we're able to do is we're able to save a lot of time going back and forth. We're able to kick off and route things accordingly. We're able to do that intelligent triage. Make sure stuff that's in the waiting room should be in the waiting room and stuff should be getting in the hospital beds that should be getting in the hospital beds. We have about 5 minutes left. Feel free, anyone else in the chat, if you have that question you want to know the answer to, if there's some particular use case you want to see with this AI and these playbooks and this legal front door, let us know. I'll give us about a minute for anyone who's itching to put something in there in the chat. Final thing I'll end with, and this might be one of the most valuable things with this idea of a legal front door, is we've seen how we can escalate. We've seen how we can capture information, how we can do AI playbooks, how we can change the status automatically. Since all of that is coming through Checkbox as that legal front door, that does provide you with the unique ability to have all of that data now. Now you can see, here's how many open requests came in. Sales accounts for 63% of all the requests we get in. Our contract review requests every month has increased. Well, now because that's being captured intelligently and automatically classified and organized, your attorneys don't have to fill out spreadsheets. It's just all happening with AI. But now you unlock a layer of data-driven decision-making you might not have previously had. Now we can successfully go to our executive and say, hey, we need to hire a new contract attorney because we're gone up every single month this past quarter. And if that continues, we're going to be underwater with work. Well, because we're able to capture it, you now have that data where you can make those different decisions. So everything we've seen today, you're able to visualize and report against in different dashboards. And you can break it down. Here's our contract work specifically. Here's what's going on with all of our litigation work specifically. And it really does all start with good data in, i.e., right, checkbox, legal front door, good data out. So with that, thanks everyone for spending time to look at Checkbox as that AI legal front door. If you have any questions, if we end this in just a minute and you realize, oh, I forgot something, reach out. I'm more than happy to help answer any questions, even point you in the right direction. If you're like, hey, I got this problem, what should I do? Happy to be a resource to see if we can't help the team out. So thanks everyone. Have a great rest of your day, rest of your evening.